Well, we're very pleased and honored to have Reverend Kelly Isola with us today. Kelly is a good friend of the CFUO, and we've had her speak with us on numerous occasions. Today, her topic is Yesterday, I Will Do Things Differently. And as I was looking at Kelly's bio, I remembered that she is the co-founder of Project Sanctus. And Kelly, I'd like to know a little bit more about that sometime this morning when you have an opportunity. It looks like that could be a worthwhile place to spend some time. I also noticed that you travel a twofold path of engaged spiritual life and demonstrating the outer path of compassion. I like that. Kelly Isola, what have you got to say to us today?
I always have a lot of things to say. Doesn't mean they're worth recording or repeating, but I always have something to say. So yeah, I'm happy to say more about Project Sanctus. And our tagline is "Let's get our holy on." And holy is however you define it. So for some people, it's connected to some, religious or spiritual thing. For others, it's just living your most noble self, right? Your higher self, or whatever language. But let's get our holy on means that it's really good to do all the navel gazing that we tend to do in New Thought and Unity. And we also have to do something. Like it doesn't healing and change and creating a world of love, justice, and liberation for all means we have to do something. So our tagline is "Let's get our holy on." We are online. We're a brave and safe online place. And our work is embodied anti-racism. And so it's, the work of dismantling systems of oppression. So because the children of racism comes in a lot of forms: classism, sexism, ableism, pickenism. And so that's it in a real tiny little nutshell, but you can always find out more at projectsanctus.com. And I can put that in the chat. And it's interesting to talk about this because here, I just put the web address I just put in the chat. So it's projectsanctus.com. And we do have a weekly, well, actually twice a week, my partner in crime, consciousness, and creation, Reverend Ogenholder, he and I do a couple podcasts a week. And you can find it on any of your podcast platforms, Apple Podcasts, Google, iHeart, Podbean. There's so many podcasts, but the name of the podcast is "With Love, Justice, and Liberation for All." So so liberation is very much our focus. And it is really the focus of what I'm talking about today, even though we are, it's after July 4th and after Independence Day, and yet we're still talking about it. We were talking about it just before we kind of went live. Like, so, what did you do on July 4th? And family and fireworks and, lots of conversations about it. And we call it Independence Day. And for me, it's, freedom is a conversation or a topic that I don't hear a lot about, in part because I think we tend to, when I say we, I probably shouldn't say we, I'll say me and many people I know kind of think, one, it's a little bit expected or cliche, right, to talk about freedom. Well, of course we talk about freedom. It's July 4th, or like around Mother's Day or Father's Day, like you're supposed to talk about these things. Frankly, years ago, if anybody asked me to speak on Mother's Day, I actually wouldn't talk about that topic. Not like I wouldn't say Happy Mother's Day, but there's been this trend for a long time in religious and spiritual communities in all denominations to actually shift away from just because it's Mother's Day or Father's Day doesn't mean I need to talk about it. Because what we've discovered over the years, people's lived experiences with those dates is so varied, is can have an enormous amount of pain and an enormous amount of joy. And rather than trying to be all things to all people, I'm just going to talk about this, something that's not related. Acknowledge the day, acknowledge the joy and the suffering, and moving on. So freedom is also, Independence Day is also one of those days for me that it seems, kind of cliche to talk about it or something expected, just like Christmas and Easter, but you can't get away with that one. You almost, how can you not talk about Christmas at Christmas time, right? Or Advent leading up to it, or Lent leading up to Easter. So then it becomes the, okay, so this is now the, umpteenth time I'm going to talk about Christmas. What does it really mean to me? I'm the kind of person that I cannot just sort of do the same, like on some holidays, do the same thing over again, or talk about the same thing, or just go look up metaphysical definitions in a book somewhere. I really have to take the topic on, and how does it live, in me, and how does it live for me, and how do I be that which I'm talking about? And so the same is true with this topic. It's, I think about, Independence Day, and, the fight for freedom to get out from under the control and rule of King George. And of course it was really messy. And of course it was, hard won. And when I sit and think about it, I also have to remember that it wasn't freedom for everybody. It just wasn't. It was a group of, European white men who, wrote these, and it gets to be really like this tension. So love reading the Declaration of Independence, love reading some of the opening in the Constitution, and yet discovering that it really wasn't. There were these values that they held, but, freedom for white men. It wasn't, and just like acknowledging the values that wanting to start with. And yet for me, it's an unfinished American Revolution, because we still don't have freedom for all. We just don't. We've come a ways, but we don't. So I started to, I still wanted to talk about it because it means something different, and ramp it up to liberation. Because liberation is kind of like, how we have the golden rule, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Well, beyond that is the platinum rule, which says do unto others as they would like to have done unto them, which is very different. Like, I don't want to do unto somebody the way I would like to be treated. I want to do unto someone the way they would like to be treated, which is a much bigger step in consciousness. It's a much bigger step in my own capacity of getting my holy on. And it requires me to be in relationship with you. It requires me to, well, how would you like me to be with you? Right? And what is it that you desire? And what is your suffering that you want me to hold with you? And what is your joy that you want me to celebrate with you? It requires me to be in relationship with you and not assume that I know. So when I sat with the word freedom, and having learned quite a bit, doing the work of embodied anti-racism, and really, learning so much more over the years about Black history, which is American history. And often I hear people say American history without, just unconsciously not quite aware of what has been left out. And where it's left me, and is with, as I sit and contemplate freedom, is as a word nerd, I'm always going to go to the dictionary first. So I go to the dictionary, and of course, like most words, there's multiple definitions. So the first one says the absence of necessity, coercion, or constraint in choice or action. So the absence of the necessity of coercion or constraint, in me being able to choose or take action. The next definition said liberation from slavery or restraint or from the power of another. And I'm like, yeah, I'm on board with that. And then there was the next one that really, really resonated with me because, well, if you know me, as soon as I say it, you'll know why. And it was the one that I really thought I could take on and bring into manifest form. And what it said was, the freedom, this is one of the definitions, the quality of being frank, open, or outspoken. The quality of being frank, open, or outspoken, which is one of my driving values, frankly. It's one of the things that I hold very dear. And so it doesn't mean, to be frank, open, or outspoken is not licensed to be mean or cruel with my words. It is, however, a call to action. It is a call to, you see something, you say something. So that's the one that when I think about freedom and I think about liberation for all, is what's my capacity for being open, for being outspoken, right? To speak up. Because I don't know about you, but there are times that I don't feel very free to be outspoken. Insofar as sometimes you pay a price. Sometimes it's going to be uncomfortable, and most of us like to avoid tension and conflict and discomfort. We don't generally run headfirst into it, although I believe our evolution, our growth is dependent on embracing it, like welcoming conflict or tension, or dilemmas when they emerge, to embrace them, because in the middle of that mud and the muck really lies our healing. So I've thought about freedom, how I've heard it spoken about for many years as a release, right? In Unity, the old-fashioned term was releasing error thoughts. And for some people, the term error thoughts works just fine. It doesn't work for me, because the minute I say error thoughts, the minute I say the word error, what I'm saying is that something is bad or wrong, or I'm not supposed to, like error, mistake. And I don't particularly believe that. I believe all of our thoughts are, they're not always life affirming, but there's information in all of my thoughts. Right. And if the thoughts I'm having are about my sense of inadequacy or worthlessness, or same, I'm thinking that about you, it becomes, therein lies the direction of my healing. Right. It's not an error. It's there, and it's there for me. Right. And in going in that direction of what is that judgment about? Why am I, not having life affirming thoughts about myself? Like, what's in there? What's going on? So it becomes a place to do my healing work, which is doing the work of freedom, right? Freedom is about choice. And so we claim our freedom, and I think, well, freedom from what? Like freedom from what? Because we say that we have unlimited freedom to think as we choose, and to attract into our lives whatever we desire. We have a lot of, I hear in Unity, and I've certainly probably said things like it over the years, that we have this capacity to choose, that we have this capacity or to attract into our lives whatever we desire. So that leads me to, okay, so then how come I don't have everything I desire in my world? Right? So now I'm into this like catch-22. I'm into this. So what am I doing that I don't have? And what is it that I have constrained myself with? Or, what is it that I'm desiring freedom? And so that's kind of how I landed on the bizarre title, Yesterday I Will Do Things Differently. It was one of those statements that when I first thought it, I'm like, wait, what? Right? It's almost like a koan. Which are things, like those statements that you just can't kind of reconcile, except that it's something I can remember. It's a statement I can remember for myself. It's a statement that there's always, I don't always have to feel like I'm at a loss. So when I say yesterday, I will do things differently, it becomes a function of looking at how was I being yesterday? How did freedom show up? Did I even think about freedom? Did I even think about liberation? Did I even think about those? And I don't mean just around July 4th. I mean, every day of the year. Did I think about what freedom really means? Did I think about, the liberation from any kind of restraint or, the power over dynamic that is alive in my life and many other people's lives? So when I say yesterday, I will do things differently, it's because I know whatever I did yesterday is going to impact today, and then what I do today impacts tomorrow, but tomorrow never comes. but I can look at yesterday because it's already came and went, right? And I can't always look at tomorrow. I mean, I know what I do today will impact tomorrow, but I can't know until tomorrow comes, which it never does, to what extent what I did today makes a difference for tomorrow. So that's okay. I'm going to pause there and let you take a breath because I talked really fast through my reasoning. So I say yesterday I will do things differently, which is really, excuse me, a reminder to pause today. What did I do yesterday or not do? Kind of take an inventory around claiming my freedom. Freedom from what? What does freedom really mean? And looking at it from yesterday, and then seeing how what I did or didn't do impacts today. So when I say to myself, yesterday I will do things differently, I'm really pointing myself to take a look at what I'm doing today, because tomorrow I'm going to look back on today. So it's just my weird Kelly way of remembering something and having it sort of be in my brain and go like, what? It gives me a place to pause. Yesterday, I will do things differently. And then I also, I don't know how many of you are familiar with Frederick Douglass's speech in 1852. He says, "What to the slave is the 4th of July?" And it's the reason I bring it up is because I think it's a very long speech. I'm not going to read it or anything, but I think it's worth anybody, go Google it and read it. It's a very biting speech because it's 1852. He's in Rochester, New York. Frederick Douglass had been enslaved in the South and escaped and went north. And this was in Rochester. A group of women had invited him to come and speak to the citizens of Rochester on the 4th of July to talk about independence. And so he really his speech was really very, biting is really the only good word for it, in part because he makes it very clear that he's like, well, what I'm talking about today, independence and freedom, I'm talking, this isn't my holiday, this is your holiday. Because remember, it's 1852. And he says that several times. This is not my freedom, this is your freedom. This is not my independence, this is your independence. And he so he just goes through, speaking from that perspective and really kind of calling everybody out. He was a great orator. And it reminds me of when I think about, yesterday I will do things differently. I kind of think about that statement, yesterday I will do things differently, in the context of Frederick Douglass talking about freedom, like somebody else's freedom, and how am I, if he was talking to me like, this is not my freedom, this is your freedom. Like, how do I come in the world that way? Like, this is what I'm doing is for my freedom, but what am I doing for your freedom? Right? This is my, this is my sense of peace. And what am I doing for your peace? Right? This is I know when I do, what am I doing? I do this for my liberation, but what am I doing for yours? Right? Because we're not disconnected. So that leads me, okay, yesterday I'll do things differently. And so I just, I know it sounds kind of, a little bit heady, but I then take that statement, yesterday I will do things differently, and in regards to freedom, and I begin to notice that now I bring in, our metaphysical teaching, our unity teaching, that we are fully human and fully divine. And so what does freedom mean in that context, right? In order for me to kind of see with the eyes of freedom, or liberation, I kind of have to have what's called unitive seeing. So unitive seeing means I'm seeing through the lens of my full humanity and my full divinity. And my full humanity isn't always pretty, right? Sometimes my full humanity looks a little, is not maybe my most noble self or my most loving self, but it is the fullness of my humanity, right? And we demonstrate our full divinity through our humanity. So when I think about freedom and how am I engaging with it for me and us, is I think about that being fully human and fully divine. And where the freedom is made manifest is kind of where those two realms, right? Or the two aspects of ourselves kind of meet. There's a Sufi term that says, where the two seas meet is where the true secret of our existence is revealed. Where the two seas meet is where the true secret of our existence is revealed. And I just put that in the chat. So let me pause for a moment. So I think about that, where my full humanity, there's C's, S-E-A-S, where the two C's meet. So where my full divinity and my full humanity meet, therein is where my existence is really revealed. So therein is where my true freedom is revealed. Therein is where our true freedom is revealed. Therein is remember I said my favorite definition was the quality of being, frank, open, and outspoken. Well, therein, where my humanity and divinity meet, therein lies the place for being outspoken, right? I can be outspoken. I can take the risk. I can be a little nervous about who might be upset and do it anyway, because I'm engaging with my full humanity and my full divinity, right? And speaking truth and recognizing where there is not freedom and giving it a voice and raising others up. And so how well we kind of connect with our divinity and how has everything to do really with how we bring forward our most noble self, full humanity, the good, the bad, and the ugly, and how well we kind of are able to play in that space and create more of what we want here on earth, create more of a world of love, justice, and liberation. That's the kind of my tagline. So that's, kind of where freedom is for me, is it's a me thing and it's a we thing. And so I have to keep coming back. Yesterday, I will do things differently. So I look back on yesterday and what did I do and how did I do it? Did I even notice who doesn't have freedom? And freedom in anything, freedom to marry who they want, freedom to love who they want, freedom to have whatever job they want, freedom to have an education, freedom to, be safe, freedom to walk, through a park, freedom to, express their own religious beliefs, freedom to, pick anything, right? Pick something in my own life that I enjoy and gives me meaning. And then are there people around me that don't have the freedom to do that? And there are. And so then it becomes, right, where the two C's meet, taking my full humanity, my full divinity, and being outspoken. And that may mean within a group of people, that may mean with family, who probably a couple of them might be upset with me. We were joking earlier before we started that, got a choice on the holiday. Do I go see the beauty of nature, travel around that, or do I go visit family? And I thought, which would I do? Because I know there are times that being with family is difficult to express, to be outspoken, because I know I'm going to bump up against the thinking differently. And that's okay, because what I'm doing is recognizing that we are exactly where we belong and that our purpose is fulfilled when we move the way we move back and forth between our full humanity and our full divinity. Our purpose is really fulfilled when those two C's meet, right? And that's where our power lies. That's where our getting our holy on lies. That's how I decide that yesterday I'll do things differently, right? I look at how I move and how I engage with my full humanity and full divinity. Charles Fillmore said that the illustration of the acorn having within its heart the oak is not correct. The acorn itself is powerless to produce anything, but as an avenue through which interior forces become exterior, it is important. Well, let me say that again, and I put it in the chat. The illustration of the acorn having within its heart the oak is not correct. The acorn of itself is powerless to produce anything, but as an avenue through which interior forces become exterior, it is important. And therein, that for me is actually a beautiful kind of foundational belief for freedom, right? So in and of myself, I'm powerless, but as an avenue through which interior forces, my divinity, can move me into the exterior, meaning being a force for humanity in the world, is vital, right? So yesterday I'll do things differently. So I think I'm just gonna take that into meditation. I can find it a little challenging to talk about freedom because it can take on so many different manifestations and so many different definitions. So I stick with the one about being frank and open and outspoken, because I think that's one of the ways that we each can begin to expand what we believe about freedom and expand, are those around us really free? And am I really free? Are there constraints in my world, in my life, constraints in my thinking, maybe constraints in my physical body? And so where is there maybe not freedom, which is not a bad thing to not recognize freedom, or maybe needing to expand that, but also looking at those around me. Where is there not freedom? And then bringing forward my openness, my being outspoken. And sometimes being outspoken is asking someone, like the platinum rule, how can I, be in a conversation about freedom and liberation with someone else, so that I can know how I can be with you. So what I know is my beginning place, as I said, is yesterday I will do things differently, also means for me is that where I am is exactly where I belong. That where I am is exactly where I belong, is the starting moment, is the doorway to liberation. So let's move into meditation with some softness. Take a deep breath and have some softness in your face. Maybe your jaw feels a little tight. Maybe you stretch it out some. Maybe the neck or the throat. And just breathe. Don't need to slow down your breath. Doesn't matter if it's a deep breath or not, but I want to just follow the rhythm of that breath, because it is the rhythm of life. It is that rhythm that we imbue with the principle, the infinite, everlasting, unchanging, absolute principle that some refer to as God, divine mind, spirit. That one presence, that one power that you imbue into your breath. So I want you to imagine in your mind's eye the image of a rainbow, because it's really a wonderful way to imagine how these two realms work together, meaning how our humanity and our divinity work together. Remembering that where these two seas meet is where our purpose, our existence is revealed. Where these two seas meet is where we can see how well we are connected to our divinity. And so imagine that rainbow is the divine oneness. Maybe the rainbow is this unmanifest principle, unmanifest oneness, unmanifest divine mind. Now imagine that rainbow that is that unmanifest divine oneness shatters into a million little shards. It shatters into form. And suddenly we have color. We have color in these millions of pieces. And these wondrous bits and pieces is our physical, our sense world, our human. And you see all of these pieces and wondrous shards everywhere. And then you'll see that an artist comes into the picture and collects all these shards and begins to give shape to the colors, begins to create patterns, and is creating a stained glass window. That is our human role. We are conscious artisans. We are conscious midwives of that divine, that unmanifest divine oneness becoming. We are the artisans, we are the creators of that divine oneness coming into manifest form. The light, the artist, the glass, they all work together in harmony. Continue to add pieces to this stained glass window that is yours and yours alone. And with the light, you as the artist, the glass, all of those working together gives you a full picture of how the sensible, the human, and the imaginal realm, the divinity, works together to show the glory of that one presence and one power. So let's take a moment in the quiet and just continue to see through your stained glass and see if there are more pieces to add to it, to expand that out into whatever shape, whatever colors, noticing how the light refracts through. So just hold that image in the quiet. Yesterday, I will do things differently. Yesterday, I will do things differently, remembering that our true selfhood is both in the glass and in the light. And our true home, our true origin is where the two worlds come together. Freedom is being original, being connected to origin. And we become more and more original every day by staying true to where our full humanity meets our full divinity, being present here and now, for the light to shine through us, for the light to be us, so that yesterday we will do things differently. And so it is. Amen.